So I came up with this fun idea, and I say fun idea with air quotes, to share with you guys my 10 biggest and most expensive investing mistakes. And while this might rub salt in the wound for me, I think it's great to share these with you guys so you can not make the same mistakes I have and be in a much better position.
Isn't that nice?
I think the tendency, especially with social media, is to brush these things under the rug and not talk about them, like all they do is win. But I feel like being transparent is a far better approach. So drop a like to make me feel better, and also if you have mistakes you feel comfortable sharing, leave a comment, as you never know, it may help somebody else. Okay, so let's rip off the band-aid and we'll start easy and get progressively worse or more expensive. My 10th biggest mistake was Forex.
Forex trading.
For those of you who don't know, Forex, sometimes referred to as FX, is short for trading on the foreign exchange market. What you essentially do is trade on the price of currencies. So for example, you could take the British pound and the US dollar, and you could essentially bet on which one will get stronger. And you can do this in all sorts of currencies, yen, euro, and so on. Now I have to admit I knew this wasn't great, but I wanted to try it just to see how it all worked.
Of course you did.
This is what you'll see plastered all over TikTok, with young kids flashing their Rolexes and Lambos, which half of the time aren't even theirs. Essentially, you join their group, typically on WhatsApp or Telegram, and they will give you signals when to buy or when to sell, and where to set a stop loss, which means when it drops too low, it'll automatically sell so you don't take too much of a loss. In theory, this sounds great, but it's very hard to do correctly. There's a big debate as to whether people could actually predict patterns in the market. I'm sure you guys have seen the diagrams of people drawing on charts, to which some extent may be viable, but the reality is if you could do it right, you would be a multi-millionaire, not running some small Telegram group. What they really want you to do is sign up to their brokerage, where they can receive up to a $1,000 bonus depending on what you deposit. Hence what can fuel their expensive lifestyle and entice more people to join. In most cases, they make money whether you win or lose. So of course they do want you to keep doing well, so they'll keep making money. The one I was actually with actually changed brokerage just so they could even get another sign-up bonus. So cheeky. And you guessed it, eventually after making a small profit, the balance faded away to nothing and I was out £200. The funny part of this is when they claimed they were making so much profit, great day today guys, I was looking at the balance like, hang on a minute. I made a spreadsheet explaining we weren't in profit and they closed the chat.
Well, who'd have thought?
But as much of a failure that it was also worth it just to see how it all worked. The next biggest mistake was a crypto pump and dump. Oh boy. You know when you hear people telling you about something that seems too good to be true? Well, it pretty much always is. The idea was a group on Discord where they were able to manipulate the price of a cryptocurrency. So you could buy it when they said and the price would shoot up and you could sell. People were putting in £100 and seemingly coming out with 10,000. So of course it piqued my interest. Again, I didn't particularly believe this, but thought, hey, why not? So I put £300 into my account, got ready to buy at the time they said to. They would announce the crypto at say 7 PM, so me and my friends were there, ready to go, and we bought. And within a second, it had shot up like a rocket ship. £1,000, £2,000, and then you click sell, and you realize you've actually bought it as it was on the way back down. Within 0.2 seconds, it shot up to a profit of say 100,000, and it was rapidly coming back down, and everyone had dumped. Now, not to say it didn't work, but who did it work for? The guys who set the whole thing up. Days before, they had put maybe $10,000 into this small cryptocurrency no one knew about. And then they used a 60,000 people strong audience to buy in so they could sell and make hundreds of thousands of profit each time. And they were doing this weekly. So as soon as they told everyone to buy, the second it shot up, they would put in the order to sell.
And that's just evil.
At the time, I knew very little about cryptocurrency, and I guess most of the people in there didn't either. And the worst part was, because there was a few screenshots of people's profit, members thought they had just missed out and they were ready to put more into the next one. Yikes. Oh, and by the way, they would also completely close the chat after so you couldn't see everyone complaining. Classic tactic. Mistake number 8 was actually one you may need to be aware of. So this was actually related to selling a stock. I think it was on either HL or Interactive Investor at the time, not that the platform particularly mattered. But what happened was the stock went up in price and I tried to sell it, but there was actually nobody to fill the order. So while I'm sitting there thinking I've made a tidy 1,500 profit on the stock, it actually got filled at the best available price, which was -500. It might not seem it, but the stock market is essentially a marketplace and someone has to fill the order that you place. In this case, it got filled at a much lower price, so you really need to be aware that that can happen and you have to double check what price you are being offered. It should rarely happen, but of course it happened to me. It's never happened since though, so touch wood. In position number 7, yikes, 7 to go, and getting increasingly more expensive was a different kind of investment I made, which was a business. I had the genius idea of starting my own range of luxury designer women's handbags. Yeah. So at this point I'd had success selling jewellery related to the movie industry and I wanted to get a higher ticket item. I sourced the bags from China and had spent ages working on the brand identity, making sure they were top quality, and they were. I even walked into Radley stores here in the UK known for their quality and mine were genuinely better. But I vastly underestimated how much work it would be to market a brand like this. I remember quite vividly, I think I messaged Zoella's team at the time. I think they wanted £40,000 to promote the bag, which was quite scary. I don't think I'd actually start a brand like this again without having a following or a very clever social media marketing strategy, maybe something like TikTok. I ended up selling them on a few websites like Not on the High Street. In total, I would spent about £14,000 on the bags, but I managed to recoup a lot of the money, and in the end I ended up selling them to a clearance company who paid about 40% of my costs on the price of the bags, which wasn't horrific. I'd made some profit elsewhere. I remember this huge truck pulling up and I'm selling these from my parents' house in my bedroom full of stock, which was quite the experience. In the end, I came out with about -6,000 in total from trying this. In 6th place was something you might find a little bit more relatable, everyone's favourite topic, crypto. I won't go into too much detail with this one as it gets super complicated and most people will be like, huh? But essentially, I tried lots of different crypto projects, some good, some not so good. Each of these had different use cases about how they would work, some offered massive returns, so I gave them a try. At some point, some were promising over 140,000% returns, which was insane, but the price of the actual cryptocurrency would fall at the same time, so it would be actually more like a 30% return if it actually worked. Some I came out pretty well, others not so well. I had the majority of my money in something called the Anchor Protocol, which was getting me a fixed 20% return for around 12 months, which did offset my losses, but even that one collapsed in the end, and luckily I had 12 months of profit and I got out very quickly. People lost everything in this one. I still think long-term crypto is good. I hold some of the more reliable coins like Ethereum and Bitcoin in CoinJar, as I think it may have some potential in the future, but I'm completely done with trying risky crypto projects, and in the end I ended up being down around £7,000. I think the inner gamer in me and pure curiosity took over a bit too far with these ones. In 5th place is something I've never actually talked about too much, which is copy trading. I used a platform which would allow you to copy other traders, which seemed very legit and promised good returns. This was quite early on in my investing journey. You would deposit money and copy popular traders who had what were seemingly quite solid strategies. After diving deeper into this and some harsh losses, I realized they were essentially hiding all of their losing positions, and then they would just dump them all in one go. I actually had someone from the team there I would speak to on the phone, which may shock you. They told me not to follow a certain person because she was aware of how much money people were losing following them. Then the company was running advertising campaigns promising how good this particular trader's returns were. Crazy. It turned out that you realistically needed to have at least 6 figures invested and blindly trust somebody on the internet to trade for you that you'd never met, and you couldn't even see a picture with them or talk to them. Funnily enough, here again, they closed the chat when people lost money or were having issues. It almost seems like a recurring theme. I may make a full video on this as it was super interesting despite losing roughly £10,000. Let me know if you want to see that. I think I may need a lie down before these final 4. for. In fourth place was the time I decided to invest in some software. The recurring subscription software market is pretty amazing. If you can get people to pay a recurring monthly subscription, you can get amazing passive income, which did entice me. I wanted to create a software I could sell to my existing customer base through my web design business. I came up with the idea for Loyal Perks. Essentially, the idea was to capture an email address for someone who came to the store and then email them with loyalty discounts to keep them coming back. I was aware there are tools to do this already, but thought a very simplified, straight to the point system could work. Plus, my target market wouldn't really be aware of the competition, most of which was quite expensive anyway. So I hired a developer, came up with a plan, and we started work. And to be fair, the software wasn't bad at all, but I reached a point where I realised I just needed so much more money. At this point, I had invested roughly £15,000. My developer was very good, a senior developer which I sort of needed to make it good enough, but he was £400 per day, which at the time was very expensive and by all standards is still expensive now. Then I would forget to map out a feature like forgotten password, which was a day and a half to integrate properly, and I realised I was just leaking money. At this stage, I decided to just write it off as a loss, and you win some and you lose some. Of course, other ventures I have tried have gone much better, like this YouTube channel that's cost me next to nothing to set up. I just needed to put in the time, which was a far better approach. Mistake number 3 is somewhat debatable, and this is that I didn't use a pension sooner. The first time I opened an ISA, I invested for a property. I built it up to 100k, which was fine, and I wanted to withdraw it to use it for a house deposit. But my second 100k, I went for an ISA rather than a SIP. And while I do want an ISA because it will help bridge the gap between the SIP and retiring earlier, I think it would have been good to take advantage of the bonus given by the government in those years of at least 20%. So my 100,000 ISA would actually be 120,000 pension. If you actually compound the £20,000 though, it would be even bigger. And I think it would have been good to get that bonus compounding as soon as possible. I'm not totally bothered about this because I do want an ISA that will grow quite large, but still, looking back now, I think this was the wrong decision and has left me playing catch up on my pension. Second place is where it really gets bad, and it was actually one of my biggest solo investing mistakes. I bought a Russian ETF, which is an investment covering the top companies in Russia, right before the Ukraine-Russian war. I mean, need I say more? I'd bought the ETF before and had done well, but as it dropped, I fell into the trap of averaging in. I bought more and more, and in the end, it ended up at an okay entry point, but currently I'm down 70%, a £17,727 loss, plus the current position is 7,487, and I lost another £500 on top of this. So essentially, I'm down around £26,000. Even worse, this has now been pretty much delisted. So my only real hope is that one day this opens back up once all of this is resolved and I can recover some of that money. Fingers crossed. I really didn't know the war would happen, but even so it was, I suppose, quite risky, but mostly just purely bad luck. Now, my biggest mistake, and that was not buying the S&P 500. I always listen to the advice about buy good value shares. The S&P 500 is overvalued, don't buy it, don't buy Amazon, Google and Tesla. And now, while I think they maybe now are very overvalued, back then I don't think they really were. At least not to the same extent, but they did seem it. If I would have just bought the S&P 500 and left it, I would be so much better off than where I am today. I can't even bring myself to calculate it because it's just so bad, but I'll just leave this here. It is easily in the range of £100,000. Ouch. So yeah, I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've also had some good successes along the way. This YouTube channel has probably helped me the most over the last few years, but also even being able to share this with you guys and seeing a few positive comments about I've helped people by sharing things has really been my biggest success to date, and I genuinely do mean that. The reason I really started this channel is because I felt like I was making websites that nobody really cared about, and actually if I'm able to help you guys and somebody comments and says I've actually helped, it means the world, and it actually gives some kind of purpose to what I'm doing. So I hope this was helpful despite the pain it causes me to reflect on it all and total it all up. And do drop a subscribe to make me feel a bit better. And hopefully I will be able to share with you guys much more positive wins in the future. And hopefully this makes you feel a little bit better about the mistakes you've made too.